And I think when you layer that into technology, oh my goodness, the magnitude of which design plays an impact in everything is so important and has continually gone that route.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of PowPod brought to you by NoRamp. Today, I'm with another amazing guest on the show, Shay Howe, Chief Marketing Officer of ActiveCampaign. Shay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ben. How are you?
Doing great. Now that we have no Wi-Fi problems, we're all good to go.
We're rolling.
So, Shay, really amazing career you've had. Listened to you on a ton of podcasts. ActiveCampaign's a really interesting company. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do at ActiveCampaign.
Yeah, happy to. I have a bit of an eclectic background. My career started in design, but it was design in the sense of how to use design to solve a problem. I wanted things to look good. I valued the creative, artistic aspect of it, but it was oriented around what problem are we trying to solve, and how does design basically allow us to do that, or how do we use design to create a better user experience for someone. And throughout my career, I've spent most of my time in hyper-growth B2B SaaS startups. And in those environments, you end up doing a little bit of everything. So while the career started in design, it very quickly kind of morphed into engineering in a sense where I'm designing these things, but I don't know how difficult they are to build. I don't know how applicable or valuable this will become. So let me go learn more about engineering and start to build some of these ideas with the team. After building a few ideas that weren't that great, honestly, I was like, maybe I should go deeper into the product management side to understand, is this even viable? Is there a market for this? Do people want this? Let's save ourselves a lot of trouble and time if not. That then led me deeper into marketing in a sense of, you can also create demand for these things. So let's understand how the full life cycle of that product becomes. And in those hyper-growth startups, you do everything, right? You got to wear many different hats. So easiest way to describe myself is being a builder. Started in design, it's been through engineering, it's been in product, it's been in marketing, it's been ops in so many different ways. And that exact same trajectory has played out at ActiveCampaign, where I started in design, I've led engineering, I've led marketing, I built our partnerships team, I've led corp dev, and still hold different forms or fashions or functions of that today. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at ActiveCampaign. I've been there over 6 years. But I would say the title or idea of CMO probably does not describe the role or do it quite the justice of the last 6 years.
Amazing. Yeah, you have a fascinating background, very different from most people. You're a true generalist that's seen so many different parts of an organization, technical, non-technical. And it's funny you say that, CMO, it's an interesting title for you. What does a CMO actually do? I know they're different at different stages, but
yeah,
what does a CMO do?
Yeah, it's a good question, because honestly, to put it in a little bit of perspective, I've been at ActiveCampaign, I said, over 6 years. When I joined, I wasn't leading marketing, to be honest, I was leading design. But we were roughly 100 people doing 20 million in revenue. Today, we are well beyond 800 people into the hundreds of millions in revenue. So the scale of perspective by which you even look at that role is a totally different job from what it was then. And I led marketing, I think for the first time, it was 2018 through 2019. So decided to build out our partnerships team, led a few acquisitions, and stepped back into the CMO role would be last year. So I didn't even have to do the math and see when I stopped leading it to when it was, but that first stint, right? It was a team of 15 marketers, myself. I had design at that point too, so both product and brand design. But it was honestly, so much of our marketing motion is organic, it's word of mouth, it's kind of inbound. So it was really just understanding how to keep that moving, how to influence it, how to drive stronger traction on the organic side. So doing way more work in the sense of what's our website, what's our content marketing, how are we spinning up different forms of content marketing to attract a wider audience, right? Today, we're still doing that, but we're going much deeper into the ideas of what are our own channels, how do we focus on different forms of paid acquisition to accelerate growth. Like, the numbers are a multitude of difference, right? Where we have to be doing tens of thousands of trials every month to really drive an impact. So even the way you think or evaluate an idea, it's not one of, hey, I think this idea will work and we could get 500 trials this month. The idea is more like, how do you do that a week or a day? Like what do you actually switch in that gear? So the scope or lens of that has changed, obviously, as has the team and the scale and size of it and the different odds and ends of that structure, one by which I'm probably far less in the day to day of it, more in the structure and understanding of what's the strategy and how are we helping folks guide that strategy, influence it, and put it into action, right? So it's really hard to distill or break down. It's you could probably poke into different levels of revenue or team size, and I'd have different answers for you.
Wow. Yeah. How big is the marketing team today?
Today, it's 45 people.
Wow. How do you lead a team that big?
You get really good leaders. It's a probably a cop out answer, but honestly, you can't without a good leadership team, quite frankly. And one by which I am no extent the smartest person in any room. Like the people who own or manage their functions, much better than I am, right? In the sense of I want to help kind of pull that together and see that as an organizational level. But you get really great leaders over what would be, content marketing, demand gen, corporate marketing, lifecycle marketing, marketing insights, like the organic growth side. So a really strong team. And then honestly, one by which after you build a strong team, it's help them see the vision, help them understand like the direction of where we need to go and what the extent of that looks like. And then guardrails on process. Like here's certain things we should do, here's certain things we shouldn't do. Outside that, I am here to help and to review and work with you, but I by no means want to exactly tell you how to do your job. And if I'm in the extent of I'm having to do that, it's probably not going to work in the sense that you're likely not happy that I'm doing that, nor can I be in every place at any given time. It just won't scale, right? So you really have to do and start with building out a very strong team.
Definitely. I mean, the best leaders perceive the people that work with them as smarter, right? That's what, if you're building out a team that is top tier, world class, you're going to want people that you at least think are smarter than you on your team.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard it. I wish I could, maybe I should do some work to try and figure this out. At some point along my career, this idea that you shouldn't hire anyone that you wouldn't be willing to work for yourself. I've always loved that. And that's been like the bar I've held on that. Like, would I be willing to work for this person? Like if the table was turned, would I be cool with that? And those are the people I want on the team, quite honestly.
That's really interesting way of thinking about it. Because if you're building that team of people that you would have as your manager, your boss, your CEO, you're going to build a world-class team. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
You've talked about, and you actually mentioned it in your intro. I thought it was one of the most interesting insights. Tell me about design as a mechanism to solve a problem. You talked about that being a core belief of yours or a core statute of how you've been able to build products and lead teams. Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about this.
Yeah. I can geek out about this, so keep me on track here, Ben. Everything around us is designed, like literally everything. To your light switch, to your computer, everything is designed. And behind that design, there's affordance that create experiences, right? And man, I've always been obsessed with that idea. And that you'll often just find me like exploring something and looking at it, just like diving deep, like, why was it designed this way? And what is the odds or ends by which someone, figured that out? And like in design school, right, they'll hand you a pair of scissors. Right? It's like you can give a child a pair of scissors, they know how to pick it up. It's the way it's designed. It's the affordance of the handle, the way the handle's shaped, right? Like that end of it is super important. And I think when you layer that into technology, oh my goodness, like the magnitude of which design plays an impact in everything is so important and has continually gone that route. You hear a lot of people talk about the consumerization of tech. Right, in the sense that from a consumer experience side, be it social media and mobile phones, et cetera, like the proliferation of tech has just invaded our lives. So all the B2B tools are also getting much better and stronger in their design. And something that I've always just been obsessed with is this idea of where does technology meet design to radically change a user experience? And how does that also change in a company or product's lifecycle? And I can give you a few examples. The best one, honestly, would probably be around Uber in so many different ways. So if you go back to like the origins or beginning in Uber, and you think about just how are we going to design this product, you have a problem that's pretty difficult in the sense that you have this idea where technology is giving you mobile phones. Those mobile phones now have pretty accurate GPS tracking, right? So you can basically commandeer or order a car to come pick you up. But you're fundamentally trying to retrain the habit that you've been taught your entire life of don't talk to strangers and definitely don't get in cars with strangers on the internet, right? Like the entire idea of design in that scenario is it's less about the interface and what it looks like. You're trying to actually rewire some behavior, right? And so one of the things Uber did in that moment was essentially they taught those drivers that essentially if you could get a 5-star rating and it's someone's first trip, so this is the first time Ben's ordered an Uber. If Ben gives you a 5-star rating, we'll basically double your commissions, right? We'll pay you double because we need this experience to be so great for Ben, right? And that's how they thought about design. It wasn't necessarily what it looked like, but it was like, how do we actually craft that user experience? Now, go a little further than that, right? Like GPS tracking, a little funky, a little off, like starts to play in different odds and ends. How to order a car. The car would think I'm in like the Chicago River. That's not correct. I'm over here. So then you got all these coordination. So then they actually just focused on what is the actual technology or engineering behind the app and how do we get that a lot closer to the customer experience to make sure that they have a more seamless, just odds and ends of the logistics of getting picked up and or dropped off at the right location. And they dove deep into that and really thought, innately around what does that look like in the app? How do you coach a driver around that? How do you give them the right tools? That became more about the interaction design, right? How to actually layer that experience into closer to what they're doing. And then eventually you started to see a bunch of competitors pop up, Lyft and et cetera. And that's where we were starting to think far more deeply about the brand design to say, hey, okay, how are we actually going to differentiate ourselves? There's purple mustaches out there now cruising around the streets. We want to be the, these are my words, not theirs, but like the more elite option, right? Like we want to be the higher class version of this. Let's get a more, clear, clean, sharp looking image focus, the thing that you can take to and from a business meeting, not be embarrassed about, right? They went way deeper into the brand design side. And that story, that arc just fascinates me. Like that in my career is what I've just been like, that is, design's been a part of every single piece of that. But the layer of design is much more nuanced or deeper than what you might think or see on the surface. But the investment in it was good at every single end, right? It didn't start with brand design because it didn't matter, right? I talk to folks all the time, like what we're building is not the field of dreams. If we build it, they will not come, right? Like we fundamentally have to get folks over here and having a good experience. And then over time, we can invest in the different layers of design by which it will become a much better experience or much higher attuned in the character or quality, if you will.
It's just so fascinating. Before I joined startups, I didn't realize how important design was. And when you think about layering, especially in technology, when you're layering the entire process of building a product or a solution or a platform, you could have the best technology in the world, the most mind-blowing, game-changing, let's go with AI tech. If you don't have an appealing user interface with very clean user experience today, that product isn't going to see the light of day. Or if it does, it's going to have 2 users.
Yeah.
You could argue that design is more important than engineering. You could, I could debate those 3, especially with you, all day long. That would be a fascinating, we could have an entire conversation just on that. But I never understood how important design was. And then when you think about it, it's everything. It is the entire experience.
Yeah. It's and I'm not a purist either, right? Like you go look at Craigslist and with that can very obviously, very clearly look much better, be a much tighter, stronger design. Maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe like the investment design is good enough. I could counter that same argument with, yeah, but look at how many businesses actually started, quote unquote, in Craigslist has been evolved. Even even Uber, right? You could argue, hey, people would go post classified ads for needing a ride somewhere, or Airbnb was classified ads for houses. Like, even on the dating apps, right? The misconnections in Craigslist, like you're taking an idea where those folks in a version of design have created a much better experience with the manifestation of not only what would be the visual interaction design, but into technology, right? To create a better customer experience. So design plays a part in everything we do. And honestly is we don't even see it. And that is somewhat of the best design, right? Like it just feels so natural, organic. I don't know. I get fascinated by it.
It's a really cool topic. And you, as having that unique background in design, product, and marketing, it is unique because no one really gets deep expertise in all three of these unless they're maybe like a product manager for their entire career, because you work with all those teams. But hopefully, this is a difficult question for you. If you had to choose one part of an organization to be the most important, that being design, product, or marketing, which would you choose? They all have to pull up their individual weights. They're all entangled. They all work together. But if there was one team that is the most important to an organization's success, which would it be?
I can't answer that. It's I know. It's the ability. It just is totally going to vary based off of company, quite honestly, right? And even in a company's lifetime, different teams will become more important than others, and or just necessarily have different needs behind them. And I don't know that I can pinpoint to a single company where I'm like, hey, it's been this team that's driven everything for them, and that's been the key to all of their success. I think companies they're organisms, right? Like they're going to change, they're going to evolve. It's so hard to say, even like what problem you're solving. Like, is it a SaaS company? Is it a professional services? Is it consumer led? Like it could be totally different. I don't know that I have a good answer for you of this team most important in any business. It's it's you're coming after my identity too. That's hard.
There's so many factors, and you're so right. It depends on which industry the organization is in. It depends what stage they're in.
Yeah.
I guess it's not a fair question because it's not something you can just say, oh yeah, marketing. Oh yeah, design. That's a tough question. I guess the short answer is it depends.
It unfortunately is. It depends. Yes.
Okay. Moving on to ActiveCampaign. I love finding out companies' moats, the things that they can leverage to keep out competitors. And yeah, I'd be very curious to hear from you what you'd say ActiveCampaign's moat is, and how do you plan to position yourself to build it out further?
Yeah. When I think about ActiveCampaign, we're in MarTech, so marketing technology. And if you're familiar with MarTech, you're probably quick to recognize there's no shortage of MarTech tools and platforms out there. And when I say no shortage, I'm talking thousands, probably north of 10,000 different types of tools you can use today and growing rapidly. So the idea of, hey, how is ActiveCampaign different? What is our differentiation from competitors? There's probably 5 things I'll put on the table there. The one is that we are an automation first mentality. So everything we're building, everything we're thinking about how do you bring that into an automated canvas? So while we have tools like email marketing, landing pages, forms, a CRM, we're talking about how do you layer automation into those. Fundamentally, it allows you to scale your business, grow it, while also creating very personalized experiences. So everything we do starts with automation. The second would be more of a personal investment in your success. The way we've looked at things across the business, where I think other companies will look at them as cost centers, we look at them more so as just like opportunity and or potentially profit centers. So even just the idea that any customer, doesn't matter what you pay, can come in and get free onboarding, free migrations. You can speak to a customer service representative. None of that's gated behind a plan tier, what you spend. Just the idea that we know our success is derived from our customer success, right, in their own businesses. So let's not be shy about actually going out and helping them. And I don't think most competitors will probably do that. The other thing we think about, the third one would be, this speaks true to my design love, is that we want the platform to be simple, but not simplistic, right? So we serve, north of 180,000 customers. So a lot of different customers coming in. What we don't want to do is make the platform so simple so that all of them can use it and it's, totally just does a minute set of what they want. We want it to be simple so that they actually understand they can use it, but we don't want the features to be so simplistic that it doesn't actually get done what they're ultimately looking to do, right? Or ultimately what they're looking to automate. And you see a lot of the market do that, where it's, hey, you want to do an autoresponder or some email drip campaigns, we'll give you the tools to that. We want to give you all the firepower you need, right? Like, we want to load you up with capabilities that really truly allow you to build any automation you want, but we don't want it to be so confusing or just so chaotic that you actually can't even figure that out. So we think a lot about this idea of how do we be simple but not simplistic, right? I'd say the fourth thing there, relayed off that, is the time to value is incredible. You could sign up for a trial of ActiveCampaign and in the next 5 minutes have an automation running that could fundamentally be changing part of your business. And the depth, the way we think about automation is one of two, that we're not just looking at sales or marketing automation. It's true automation across your entire life cycle. So that idea of, hey, you'll go into ActiveCampaign, you will get value today, but you'll also get it tomorrow, and you'll continue to get it every single day you use ActiveCampaign, because there's no shortage of what you can actually begin to do with it or where it can expand and basically evolve with you and your business. And we believe as we grow, so can our customers, right? Like in the way they use automation. So the value you're going to get is just magnificent. And then the last one is probably a bit more factual than not, but it's the most positively reviewed marketing automation platform in the world. You go to G2, Trustpilot, TrustRadius, etc. I mean, our customers tend to speak for themselves in that manner. Even in G2, you're going to have north of 10,000 reviews for ActiveCampaign. So it's just, an incredible platform backed by an incredible customer base.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm a former user as well. My last company, we used ActiveCampaign. Simple but not simplistic is a very good description in my mind of how the platform looks for a user, and even like for a new user.
Yeah.
It's a great product, and you have all the tools you need, but you can build upon that. And the automation, I didn't take as much advantage of as maybe I should have. But automation's interesting because what it brings to mind is AI. And obviously that's a hot topic right now. It's what everyone's talking about.
Yep.
What do people not understand about AI in the context of marketing?
It's a really good question. I'll give you an answer. I'm going to give you the preface or caveat to that. What AI is today is wildly different than what it was last quarter, which is wildly different than what it was a quarter before. Like, if we were having this conversation a year ago, Ben, what I think ChatGPT may have just been introduced. Like, it's almost at that moment. I remember like the first time I used it and being like, whoa, this is going to shake a lot of things up. So I think where we're at today, I'll give you an answer, but I don't like, someone might listen to this in a month and be like, Shay, you were so wrong. I will just own that, if that makes sense. But where AI is today, in a sense of, as we think about marketing and what's changing within it, there's this content generation is like a big piece of that, right? And that is a little scary, I believe, in the sense that Google's going to start to figure that out, because all content generation is the cultivation of everything else that large language model can go find on the internet. So unless you're training it on very specific or own data sets, that's going to be hard to do. And I think the strongest content marketing is probably going to come from the forms of where there's true opinions, where there is true guidance, net new education, or something like you're actually influencing or evolving in that lens. And behind that too, I also think the idea of owned channels are going to rapidly evolve. We've already had, just a ton of different algorithm changes through social networks, the cost of ads completely changing or rerouting. You're even seeing just key audiences migrate from platforms to others, from what was Twitter and X to something else. Like, it's just the idea of where marketing is going has just been changing so much, I'd say, in the last 12 months, and AI has been pushing a lot of that. So I think in the marketing space, it's thinking far more about some of what owned channels you have, and that being, hey, what are channels that we've created? Our customers, our audience comes to us in. We can control how we appear, how we show up, how we engage and speak to our customers. Podcast is a great way to do that in so many different ways, right? It's an own channel. Those are becoming so much more important. And if I were to layer in the design side too, it's one of, how do you actually stand out? How do you be a bit more creative than the competition to catch someone's attention, right? And that could be through design or the content side. So things are changing pretty rapidly. That to me is also the fun and exciting part, where like it's not as if like there's a playbook and we just got to go run that. It's you're kind of on your toes every single day thinking about, all right, how is this evolving? How is this changing? And where is the opportunity for us? And where does that quote unquote luck come from, where preparation meets that opportunity? So um, I don't know. I think that's the fun part of it.
It's insane how fast AI is evolving. I'm by no means an AI expert in any way. I use ChatGPT. It is incredible. I've seen the use cases already, in marketing, in every other industry, and it is pretty incredible, and it is going to change everything. If there was any negative where AI plays a part in your mind,
Hmm.
what would be what would be the downside of AI?
Yeah. I'll do it from the marketing context, because you could get pretty philosophical and deep in some areas of, hey, what is the downside of AI? And I think, even in the United States, there's some regulation and a lot of conversations around what to do about that. So I'll put that aside for the moment being. AI, there's two lenses to it. In one sense, it's been around for a long time, and we've been doing a lot of different things with it. The generative AI side is totally, kind of upended things in the last 12 months. And from that respect, it's things that kind of give me pause is kind of twofold. One is just the privacy and the data end of it. Like, I don't know anymore in many ways in which, I'm giving you this data. How are you going to use it? And do I actually own it at the end of the day? Or are you going to go use it to do something else? Like, there's a lot of second thought that goes into data privacy and how that's held. And I just think the trust and security you keep with your customers is going to be one of the most important pieces as a marketer, right? And especially in ways by which you want to enable them to go do more with their data, right? Like, data is a very valuable asset. So how do you enable customers to continue to use it and leverage that, but also give them the confidence, security that it is, secure? So I think that's one end that we have to start to think a little bit more about, just deeply on the marketing side. And that's not net new in so many ways, but with AI, I think there's a whole new lens to how you look at some of that data privacy side. The other end of it is, the second piece would just be bias. Like, in large language models, the relevancy, the diversity of that data really matters in terms of what you're going to get out of it. So if you're using it, it's really making sure, like, you better double check the work. Like, I wouldn't take it for what it is. And in that, just make sure is the data that it's using relevant? Does it come from, a diversity of everything you want behind that, right? Could be locations, languages, what have you. There's so many different ways you can think about that lens of it, and just be careful there. Like, don't take it for what it's worth. Like, no doubt, use it, let it become a superpower for you, but don't relinquish all your control to it either, if that makes sense.
Well, like AI guardrails is kind of what's gonna be needed, because you're right. Like, anyone can do anything with data that they put into ChatGPT that then generates a response, and then, all right, there's my response. So use it wherever.
Yeah.
So that's and the bias, that's a fascinating part of it. These tech bros out in Silicon Valley they're the ones who created OpenAI, right? So like there are inherent biases, which Sam Altman's talked about, and it's pretty fascinating that is something that's already being talked about so early on in the game. But yeah, I could talk about AI forever. But going back to ActiveCampaign and email marketing, and ActiveCampaign is not just an email marketing company. It is one of your like use cases, but it's so much more an automation platform first in my mind. But because ActiveCampaign has a lot to do with email marketing, what is next for ActiveCampaign and the industry at large?
Yeah. Uh, in relation to email or automation, how would you shape that, or either way?
Either way.
Yeah. Maybe I can weave the two together, because this kind of goes a little bit to what we were talking about before, where email is an own channel, right? Like that becomes something very important. And I think folks will argue, email's dead. Email's never been more alive. Like this, the idea of it being an own channel, a direct line into your customers, your leads, those opportunities, it's still the best channel by which to reach folks and get the truest or most sincere engagement, quite frankly. Now, how we track that engagement, completely changing, quite honestly. Like to understand opens or click throughs, things like that. Like a lot of that's going to get obfuscated. So I think the quality of what you're sending through email or how folks engage with that is going to, it has to come up, right? Like there's just going to have to be more attention to that. And I think the best marketing already is something that's more of value versus promotional, right? Like it's educational, it's insightful, it's bring a level of emotion into the experience. So if you're already doing that, great, you're ahead of the curve. But I think it's going to have to go far more in that direction. And I think automation will follow in that same respect, right? The ways of which automation is working today, I believe, will completely just evolve around tying an AI to it. Like it's just going to change. Even today, like we have a feature in ActiveCampaign we've been experimenting with where could you just go in and type out just open text, the automation you want built. So it could be, hey, I'm trying to book Shay for the podcast. So when I book a guest for the podcast, I want you to send an email explaining, here's what to expect, on the podcast. The week before the podcast, I want you to send a reminder and make them sure that they can confirm that they're going to be there. The day before, send them a reminder one more time. Make sure to include the recording link. After recording, send them a thank you. Wait a week, remind me to make sure we get it published or send the assets back. Like you just type that out, hit enter, and then we'll just build it for you. Like literally writing the content of the emails, putting all the, the wait steps in there, understanding the date of when something is booked through a custom field in your database, things like that. Like that will just work now versus you having to go build that. Completely changes things. I think that idea is going to go even further to the idea where, say you're running an event. It's like, hey, I'm running this online event. I want to sell as many tickets as possible. I think it should probably start with a coupon code to get started, maybe for the first 50 people. After the first 50 people register, change the price of the event or move the early bird access. And then, make sure everyone has a no before they go and send a follow-up thank you afterwards. And you just type that out. And then the automation will be like, cool, all right, got it. We're going to invite everyone into this who we believe to be the most applicable or attended audience. We're going to run a coupon, then we're going to change the price of the event for you and adjust it after so many people register. We'll build out the automations. Like, I think that lens of it's going to go much, much deeper to where I'm not just describing the automation I want, but I'm actually just going to describe the outcome I'm seeking. And it will come up with some of the marketing campaigns for me. And this is a little scary, honestly, to think about. But I think that's a reality and one that I don't want to fight. Like I want to find ways to harness and run with and get the most from that. And believe that, frankly, automation or AI could just be essentially more folks on the team, right? It could be like adding marketers to our team that we should just begin to use in that way. So I think we're headed in that direction. I don't know how far off we are, but if the acceleration of it has been anything in the last 12 months, I don't think it's that far away.
What an interesting concept. That kind of changes the entire way organization would function like kind of behind the technology you offer, like fundamentally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that if I can wax a little bit more, like I see two things different happening, and I don't know how they end or how this shakes out either. So maybe give me your feedback on this, Ben. But one is I think more and more tools keep getting introduced and added. And I think that is going to continually happen. And you're going to see more tools get deconstructed. And what I mean by that, even just take the idea of a CRM. So many folks will use a tool to go schedule calls, right, on one end, maybe it's Calendly. They'll use a different tool to record those calls, probably Gong. They might even use a different tool to run the calls, right? That could be AirCall or something else, right? So Gong's just on the call. You probably have different tools that are doing different layers of data intelligence or enrichment. You probably have different tools that are doing tools that are then saying, what's your most applicable prospect or lead scoring or qualifying? You might have a different tool that's just fundamentally your pipelines or stages in your CRM. We're just talking about a sales motion. I've already probably listed half a dozen different tools. I think that's just going to keep happening. I think you're going to see it around sales enablement, all these other odds and ends. I think the way you put AI into those, it's going to allow those to get really strong too. And that's why you're going to start to see more niche tools across that. On the opposite side, like that will probably break. And you're going to see more roll-ups of these things too. And more platforms that are, hey, we're going to give you the 80% of what you need in these respects. And that extra 20% you're looking for probably doesn't come at 40% of cost or something, right? Like, I don't know the lens or odds of what that looks like yet, but I see it happening on both ends. We're seeing far more and more niche level tools, but you're seeing more also rolled up. So I'm curious to see how that kind of shakes out. I don't know if you have any thoughts there either.
I actually completely agree because I mean, you explained half of the products I use at the beginning, and I'm happy with them being standalone platforms that I use them for their core competency. I would rather that than pay 10x the amount for one product that has everything in it with functionality that's subpar, just worse, that because it's not their core competency. So
Yeah.
as a user, first of all, that's how I kind of operate. I like the different products because Calendly's so good when it comes to booking meetings. I use Notion. I use Notion for multiple things. I've got it as a CRM for certain things. I use it as team collaboration. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's just two examples of two separate products that I use for I wouldn't even say like the CRM is Notion's core competency, certainly not, but it's a use case for them.
Yeah.
So I think everything's in cycles, right? We all talked about how everything was being consolidated. All these platforms were going to have all these things. This was a hot topic a few years ago, and then it broke. Right, everything's in cycles, so it went back to everyone's got to focus on their core competency. Everyone's got to focus on the one thing that they are going to be the best at. And honestly, I think that's only going to get further true because you said it before, there's so much technology out there. There's so many platforms that are getting built. How are you going to build a moat? It's because your product has to be the best experience in that specific niche. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah. Still a lot of the same things happening on the just like cable TV front, right? This is an interesting one where it's like, hey, you're paying, essentially you're locked into a cable TV provider. That's the only way you get access to all the different channels or things you want. So much of that has been unbundled and you can go get it a la carte. And now I'm finding myself of like, I'm actually paying more than I was before to go get these individually. Like, do I need cable TV again? Like, is that the better answer? And it's a little chaotic.
Yeah, they got us there. Yeah, they got us to pay more because I didn't think about that until recently either. It's like might be actually the better purchase. Go back to cable.
Yep. So, but
yeah, no, that's a really interesting concept though. I'm very excited about the future of technology specifically. There's just so many things to think about. There's so many opportunities, and it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out just in general.
yeah, I think that's it's the right mindset and attitude too, right? Like it, back to where we started the conversation. For me, it's that idea of design being, how do you take technology and what it's now enabling and bring the user experience into that? How do you just change this so that you're doing something inherently different but better? That landscape never changes. There's always a new, better way to probably do something as technology evolves. And I love a little bit of that chase of just trying to understand that and bring that experience out. So it's if you look at it from that side, it's not scary what's happening. It's actually pretty exciting.
100. I couldn't agree more. 100%. And yeah, so my closing question is about, you get to choose either your favorite quote or your most polarizing belief or opinion.
Ooh. Oh, that's true.
I haven't offered both. You could do both if you want as well.
All right. So it is my favorite quote or my most polarizing belief. I wish I was a little more simple than I am. Because even a lot of folks be like, "Hey, Shay, what's your favorite book?" I'm like, "Well, you got to narrow that down. Like, you got to tell me what type of topic you want or what you're looking for." So even on the quote side, I'm like, "Oh, well, I'd have a bunch of different ones." But I think I could get an answer both. And I'm tying a lot of these all together, and you can even see it behind me. Like, do what you love what you do, right? Just in the sense of work is, man, we spend so much time there, and just, the significant majority of our lives go to it. So just do what you love, enjoy that, right? So just from a quote perspective, is do what you love what you do. On a polarizing belief end, it's taken me a while to kind of figure this out or put this together, but most of the problems I have, they're my own fault. Like, just the idea that we contribute a lot to our own problems than we probably often even recognize or realize. And it takes two to tango. So if there is a problem there, you're best warranted by trying to understand that other person, what their belief is, what experiences in their lives have led them to that belief. And it's not this idea that they are inherently wrong or incorrect. It's, how do they get there? And can you take your beliefs and experiences, match with their beliefs and experiences, and figure out, okay, like this actually makes sense where we're off on our agreement here. How do we come up with a solution that is, option C versus A or B that actually supports or enables both of us? And how do we do that from just the willingness and ability to communicate around how we hold those beliefs versus rooting deeper into them and holding so fast to them that we can't get out of our own way. So just that idea that, you probably contribute far more to your own problems than you really recognize or want to say. So
I love that. And yeah, great quote. I had a podcast a few years ago that was about career paths, and you spend 90,000 hours in the average adult life at work. You might as well do something you enjoy, right? Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that one. And yeah, a lot of people think the world is happening to them, but it's usually because of them. So that's it.
Yeah. When my father retired, I remember he gave a little speech at the little party, and he's basically like, I really enjoyed what I did my entire life. I don't feel as if I worked a day in my life. Like this, that is a blessing that I is not lost lightly, right? And man, it's just stuck with me in that sense of, a lot of people go through life doing things that they don't enjoy, but it just feels as if they need to or have to for some unbeknown reason. And there's probably a lot of truth to that in some respect. I recognize my privilege and being able to live in tech and do some things differently, but man, just finding a way to enjoy what you do is it's important.
Yeah, that's a great place to end the conversation. I think it's so important, and I wish everyone agreed with that or understood that. But Shay, thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed the conversation, and I wish you and ActiveCampaign nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah, Ben, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. If I may ever return the favor, please let me know.
Thanks so much. Have a good one, Shay.
Thank you.